Hello there, everyone, and welcome to GamePoints episode 285. Your weekly little get-together, we talk about recent gaming news. I'm, as always, your host, Stephen Brown, and joining me today is...
I'm David, and we've done this a lot.
We have. That's a high number. That number is getting higher every time we do it. Tonight, Microsoft and Sega strike a deal. BlizzCon delays essentially I shouldn't say BlizzCon. Blizzard delays essentially everything. And Amy Hennig finally has some details on the new game she's working with. But first, I want everyone here to know this is an audience interactive podcast. So if you're watching here live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at twitch.tv/GamePoints or later over at youtube.com/GamePointsPC, to feel free to join the conversation. If any questions, comments, concerns, etc. you might have, just try to keep them germane to the topics on hand. David.
Yes, sir.
Before I ask you what you've been playing and what you've been up to and what I've been up to and all that, there is one question I need to ask, and this is by the way of Ninja Wolf in the Discord server, and he asked something and I feel it's very important to find out what your take on this is. Now,
Okay.
I have an opinion on it. It's a very strong opinion on it.
I'm excited because you didn't prep me on this, so...
No, I want you going blind. Is milk, or rather is cereal, a soup?
Yes.
Incorrect.
Why? Are you going to say because it's not hot? Because there's cold soup?
No. There's things like gazpacho. It's because there's no broth in it. Milk is not a broth.
I mean, does it have to have a broth to be
Yes.
soup? Is that like in the rules?
It,
Okay.
my rules.
That being said, does that mean that cereal is, instead of being a soup, is a stew?
No. Because stew has meat in it. Unless you're eating meat cereal,
Yeah,
and I
I
don't
don't
know what the fuck meat cereal is.
I mean, I think you're just screwing up your cereal. That sounds great.
But yeah, that was asked in our Discord group, which you can be a part of if you want to pop on. The link down there is below.
I have weird opinions because I also subscribe to the any open top sandwich that has bread on three sides is technically a hot dog. Taco? Definitely a hot dog.
See, no. I will always fall into the, like, I think it was a Supreme Court justice that once said, I can't define what pornography is, but I know it when I see it. I can't define what a hot dog is, but I know it when I see it. That shit's not a taco or a hot dog unless it falls into a very specific set of criteria, which I cannot define. But I will be able to tell you upon looking at it.
You can argue it as much as you like. Luckily, your opinion does not affect my life in any way. Oh boy, things heating up in the hot dog fandom. Anyway.
Anyways, David, to what we normally play before we get into the news. I've actually been playing a lot of stuff over the weekend, and for the past week or so, I would have been streaming it more, but I had a bit of a dental issue over the past few days that I couldn't stream on. But I've been hitting up that Darkest Dungeon 2, and boy, for being an early access game, it is so good.
That sounds like something you'd be doing.
Yeah, it is. It is really, really thought out. It's complete, quote unquote. You can do an entire run of it from start to beginning, or from start to end, rather. Start to beginning. And it doesn't like just leave things off. Then you can tell where they can clearly add in more monsters and levels and expand on what they have. But it is a complete game. And that is one of my requirements for an early access games. I don't do early access all that often, but when I do, I like them to at least give me a full experience, which is why I'm not doing the Baldur's Gate stuff right now, because I'm waiting for that to be fully out.
Yeah, and that's going to take a while. I don't know if you saw, but there's a new interview with Swen today for...
Yeah, isn't it like late next year now is when it's estimated?
They just don't think it'll be completely done because the scope is just so huge.
Just ever?
No. They don't think it's going to be this next year. They think it's going to go longer, basically. So,
yeah. They think it's like 2023 now.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, shit. I'm really glad I didn't get invested in that then.
I
have it. Don't get me wrong. I have it. It's sitting there.
I got 70 hours in the early access. I did fine.
Yeah, I took a look at it for like 30 minutes and went, okay, I know what this is going to be. I'm going to set this aside and we'll wait for it to come out. Damn, that is surprising. I didn't know it got delayed that long. Holy hell.
Yeah, that was, I think, just from today. They had an interview. I don't know.
I do know they dropped some stuff with him recently. I need to sit down and take a closer look at it. Anyways, what have you been up to? Enough about me.
Still playing Back 4 Blood. That game's still great.
Okay.
It just is. Play with friends. Have fun. Don't play it by yourself. The AI is completely brain dead and useless. And other than that, my quest to kill all of the Dark Souls bosses before Elden Ring comes out is still moving along without a hitch.
We're still in Dark Souls 2?
Yep.
All right. Sounds
Which
good. Now,
is
are we
really difficult to go into immediately after Dark Souls 1 remastered.
not only is the inferior game, but it's the dated game at this point too.
Yeah, Dark Souls 2 is now the oldest in the franchise if you count the remastered as being newer, which I do because it runs at a better frame rate and like I don't know, the controls are like a little floaty and I forget about it.
Okay.
Like the walking feels weird in that game and it's very strange.
Now, are you going to only stick to the first 3 Dark Souls games, or are you going to branch out to like the Demon Souls, or are you going to do Bloodborne? Or
the plan prior to the game being delayed was to kill all the bosses in the 3 mainline Dark Souls games. I'll see what happens after I finish DS3.
Okay.
And you know what month it is because I'm not playing it very fast.
Okay. Now you have played Bloodborne and Sekiro before, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and you didn't care too much for either one of them, if I recall.
I like Bloodborne more than Sekiro, but Sekiro I actually don't think I like that game.
Okay, fair enough. This wasn't me trying to grill you one way or another. This was just trying to get me to clarify in my head if you've actually tried them or not.
And we've talked about it. My big issue is the lack of build variety. Sekiro is a game that I've played, and if I play it again, I don't gain anything from it besides beating it, I guess, slightly faster or something. Okay. Like, there's nothing else to do. I still have the same katana. I still have the same skill tree. Like, there's nothing new. Whereas, you know, going back to the Dark Souls games, I can play a very different character.
Magic user, dexterity build, tank build, sword and shield build, etc. Stuff with Twitch, good to have you in chat. They are saying that voice of the cards is beautiful, but not as compelling as Inscription. No joke, few things have been as compelling as Inscription has been this year. That is definitely in the running for one of my favorite games this year so far.
Exciting.
But I am whole hog in support of, I think Daniel Mullins is his name, that developer who did other great games, punting on the Hex as well. I didn't like Inscription as much as the Hex, but god, they all fall into the same category where I can't tell you anything about Inscription, because the less you know about it, the more enjoyable it's going to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's how the other two are.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I haven't played Voice of the Cards yet, though. I'm here. It's like getting all right reviews every now and then. It's not going to be a system seller or anything like that. But I hear it's decent. That seems to be the overall experience with it. Anything else you want to bring up, David, before we move into the news? Or is that going to kind of...
I think that covers it for games.
Let's move
for now, at least,
into the first news story. And I think this is bigger than it is on its face, because on its face it's not really anything that grandiose, but it opens the door to a lot of stuff in the future.
And we'll get into it, but I actually think that this is like a long time coming and has had seeds for a long time.
Yeah. We're going to talk about the Sega Microsoft alliance. Essentially, these two companies have agreed in principle a strategic alliance that explores ways for Sega to produce large-scale global games in a next-generation development environment built on Microsoft's Azure cloud platform. The alliance would be a key part of Sega's mid to long-term strategy, allowing business to move forward with a super game. That's their quote, by the way, super game, whatever the hell that is. A new initiative for developing new and innovative titles whose key focuses are global, online community, and IP utilization. David, that is a shit ton of buzzwords to essentially say that they're going to be working together, and we really don't know what they're going to be doing beyond it being related to Microsoft's cloud platform.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. They're going to do a thing, and it's going to use Microsoft tech.
Yeah, this is... Well, why don't you, Lee? You said you had some thoughts about this being a long time coming. Expand on that.
So, the way I've thought for a long time is that Sega should really been focusing on a bigger partnership with Microsoft, because at least between me and some people I know, we've always kind of jokingly called the Xbox the Dreamcast 2, because there was a lot of Sega titles that ended up on the original Xbox. Like there was a Panzer Dragoon game, and there was just, a few other things that kind of migrated there. And it's always seemed like the mentality that Microsoft has had in the gaming space kind of echoed Sega in some ways, and like there's parallels that you can take between like the Microsoft Sony fight and the Sega Nintendo fight that I think, I don't know, they're interesting. And we wanted Sega to do something for a while, right? And we've gotten a few small games, and there's still been new Sonic's sort of, and there's been some remixes and some other stuff. But I think a lot of people want Sega to kind of be a bigger company in the developer space, and a big partnership like this, I think, will help.
It feels like not quite to the same level as Capcom is, but it feels like Sega is on the rise again as well. And their growth is going to be constrained by their current size. Reaching out to someone like Microsoft, who is desperate to get into the Japanese, and I don't want to say desperate to get into the Japanese market, but needs that help to get in there. This makes perfect sense. Microsoft can give them their resources. Sega can give them their contacts and IP. Does this mean that we're going to start seeing Sonic the Hedgehog exclusively on a Microsoft platform? Probably not. This is just the beginnings of a relationship for them to use tech and to possibly get other Sega games on Game Pass. Yakuza, I'm looking at you.
I was going to say, you might see like a Yakuza 8 only coming out on Game Pass and on the Xbox. Who knows?
I think this all puts up the door to a bunch of things, too. For example, Microsoft owns Obsidian now. Obsidian were the original creators of that amazing yet highly glitchy Alpha Protocol game. A name that I'm getting word that is being tossed around a lot behind the scenes all of a sudden. Like, there's a lot of chatter about Alpha Protocol, so I think this might be related to some of that, where you might say Alpha Protocol come back because Sega owns that IP. You can see RTS veterans Relic coming to work on things like Age of Empires and stuff like that. There's a lot of potential here. Stuffy Twitchy in chat says maybe this is a pre-engagement period before Microsoft acquires them. You know, I heard about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago that Microsoft was in talks with some major third-party studio for some kind of a announcement. I have to wonder if that's what this was, because when I first read that, I thought that Microsoft was going to buy someone big. I was thinking, or go into some kind of big exclusive agreement with someone. I was thinking maybe like Square Enix or something like that. But this would also potentially fill that void just in a way that I didn't think was going to happen. Do I think that Sega is going to sell to Microsoft? No. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. I can see Sega, however, becoming more and more of a second-party developer for them.
Yeah, there's, well, I was going to name some companies that would work on the Sony side, but I think Sony's picked up a lot of them.
What the closest I would be able to... Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Sony, because the closest I would think of in this kind of relationship would be how Insomniac was to Sony for years before Sony.
That's exactly who I was going to bring up, was Insomniac, actually.
Yeah.
So that's
how they would occasionally do, like, for example, they made Sunset Overdrive for the Xbox, but for the most part, though, they were essentially a Sony-only developer. I can see Sega going that route, though with less exclusivity.
They do have some titles that are everywhere, but they do have, you know, those key franchises maybe that are coming out just for Xbox.
Yeah, you're not going to see Persona 6 not on a Sony console, for example. But you could possibly see it day one on Game Pass.
But if they ever make another Panzer Dragoon game.
Didn't they just make didn't they just remake Panzer Dragoon 1 and 2 or the first one or something like that? Like not all that long ago?
Yeah, which means that they could make a sequel.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Do you have anything you want to add to this, David?
I am cautiously optimistic because they announced this as an alliance and not Microsoft just straight buying Sega, which I think would bum me out.
Yeah, it's not an acquisition.
It's not an acquisition, which makes me happy because I kind of like companies remaining their own companies. Like I don't love the whole one company owns everything thing. And so cool. Maybe we'll get more cool Sega stuff.
Maybe. One thing to point out, too, by the way, is that this, despite the plethora of corporate speak and buzzword terminology throughout here, they do mention that this is meant to be a mid to long-term strategy. So anything that is going to come from this will be a while out. Years from now. I would say minimum 4 years.
Any releases that we see from Sega within the next year or two probably have nothing to do with this announcement. They were already in the works. They're already planned. They already have everything going. But the stuff that they're starting work on right now is going to be involving Microsoft.
Right. Microsoft isn't buying Sega, at least not yet. So don't think that's going to be happening. But as I said, it gets the foot in the door for some weird shit to happen between Sega and Microsoft. Because once you have that one relationship, it's much easier to build a whole bunch of others.
Yep.
David, why don't you go ahead and take this news next story here?
Yeah, from everybody's favorite website, investor.activision.com.
Yeah, that's
I know, yeah.
Go
We're
on,
going to talk about it. And the third quarter financial results that Activision puts out, which is a thing that they do.
Dropped today.
They dropped it today. On page 6, there was some information that could be important to people like us. And that is that both Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2 are now expected in 2023. In a quote from the release itself, while we are still planning to deliver a substantial amount of content from Blizzard next year, we are now planning for a later launch for Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 than originally envisaged. These are two of the most eagerly anticipated titles in our industry, with teams that have made great strides towards completion in recent quarters. But we believe, given the teams some extra time to complete production and continue growing their creative resources to support the titles after launch, will ensure that these releases delight and engage their communities for many years into the future. And you can tell that this is more of a press release for investors than for, gamers, just by reading it, right? It's so stuffy. And anyway, these decisions will push out the financial uplift that we've expected to see next year, but we are confident that this is the right course of action for our people, our players, and the long-term success of our franchises. Anyone that was wondering why BlizzCon Online, or whatever the hell that thing's called, was canceled, there you go. They've got nothing to show.
Nothing to talk about.
Because their biggest games aren't even coming out next year. Also, there's a huge shit show going on at Blizzard. So, yeah, Activision's pushing some shit back and gonna maybe hope for the heat to die down a little before they try and release these potential money machines.
And this is all blowback from that. In fact, there has been a massive turnover on the Blizzard side of things specifically. I think Activision announced they fired like 20 people because of past or current harassment claims. Blizzard just lost its current co-president. Now it's all in the hands of Mikey Barra. I forget her name, but if you recall, Blizzard was kind of being led by two people simultaneously in co-presidency roles. I can't remember her name, but she left, and she is going to be leaving Activision Blizzard completely. Now it's all in Mikey Barra's hands. So they have had a lot of issues. Now, chat's saying Activision troubles haven't yet impacted their financials. They'll start printing money. Not true, Stuffy Twitch, because I was watching their stock earlier today. At first, it's funny because I'm not going to get into specific numbers, but I want to bring up the visual here so I have it. You guys aren't going to be able to see it. But I want to make sure I'm correct on at least the percentages here. When the conference call started, they announced that they met and exceeded slightly their expectations on the financial side of things. In other words, they made more money than was expected. So their stock shot up about 3 to 4% and stayed that way until they announced that everything they had tentatively planned for 2022 was delayed. And then their stock plummeted 12% in less than 2 minutes. Because they came out, they revised their fourth quarter estimates down, and then they said, also, we have nothing in 2023.
2022.
Or 2022, rather. So I wouldn't be surprised if they had nothing in 2023, the way they're going. So, yeah, they have been hammered hard. ATVI, I think is the stock ticker, if you want to take a look at that. But they took a pounding after hours today, and it was not even close.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
It has been a rough time for these two franchises, by the way, Diablo 3 and Overwatch 2. Overwatch 2 was announced back in 2019. It was supposed to be coming out somewhat soon-ish. Now we don't even have a real release date for it. At minimum, 2023, which is going to be 4 years after it was announced.
But it's the same game anyway.
Which makes it even less of a... I don't get how it could take this long to crank out, essentially, like you said, the same game. They could have a bunch of extra things on there. Who the hell knows? Furthermore, Diablo 4 was announced when? Also 2019, but the last time a Diablo proper game came out was in 2012.
Yeah, but what was the gap between Diablo 2 and Diablo 3?
Roughly the same amount of time. It was roughly about 10 years to 12 years or so. I get that. But in video game time, that is glacial.
Yeah, and that's how Diablo works.
That's how Blizzard at the top of its game used to be able to justify and get away with. That is not the Blizzard we have today.
That's true, but now they have less staff, so that's the
No,
Blizzard you can get.
I would say they have more staff now because of how big they've been. Because they don't like necessarily trim down. I know Activision has let go a lot of people the past few years, but I'd be willing to bet that the headcount at Blizzard is higher today than it was in 2012.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, we could probably Google it, but that sounds like way too.
That sounds like more work than I'm willing to do. I'm just going to make a wild statement and assume it's true.
Yeah,
This is
that
the
sounds
internet
great.
after all.
Blizzard just as big as it always was, everybody.
But yeah, it has been a very long time since Blizzard's cranked out anything beyond like your small shit or World of Warcraft expansions.
Mm-hmm.
And that is going to start. I mean, I don't want to get into it. It's beating a dead horse at this point. We have waxed poetic
so
about
I guess the other
Blizzard's
argument though is
situation
how
for
much
years.
money does Blizzard actually make Activision? Because Activision still is just printing Call of Duty money, right? So
And oh no, that's EA. I was about to say Apex Legends, but I forgot that's EA. Never mind.
correct.
What
So
else is
it's not like they're gonna close or fold. Like they're gonna be fine. Their stock took a dip. It's gonna go right back up. Like in the long term, as like shitty as everything is with Blizzard right now, Activision doesn't really have to worry about it because it won't matter in fucking 10 years.
Oh well, in 10 years, what does when it comes to video games?
I'm just talking about like when it comes to like corporations that are sitting where these guys are sitting.
Activision really doesn't have much anymore, do they? Besides the Blizzards and the Call of Duties.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of what else they make. I mean, Tony Hawk's essentially in the trash right now.
Man, that
they
is
lost
like such a dated thing to bring up.
They lost Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they have to have something other than Activision Blizzard. I'm just not thinking of it. Anyways, enough of that. Moving on to the next topic. Remember how a few years back we were talking about how Amy Hennig left Naughty Dog? She was kind of bouncing around. She had a little bit of a stint with EA Moda for a bit, but then that fell through with her unannounced Star Wars game. She ended up joining Skydance Entertainment. Skydance is a movie production company, but they're starting up their own game studio. Well, you finally have an idea of what they're working on, even though it's just a little bit of an idea. Announced today that Amy Hennig game was going to be a Marvel game. Apparently, Marvel and Skydance have announced a collaboration, but very few details on what this is going to be have been revealed beyond it being a completely original story and take on the Marvel universe. Reading
Also,
to that
for the record, today means the 29th. Just to
sorry, 29th.
clarify.
Yeah, you are right. You are right. It happened a couple days ago. Reading to that what you will, my gut tells me think the current Square Enix release of Guardians of the Galaxy, where it's not MCU related, but they try to kind of ape it just a little bit. That's what my gut says. The only other detail I've been able to find on whatever this Amy Hennig Marvel game is going to be is that actress Janina Gavankar announced that she has a role in the game, but we don't know what role that is going to be. You might recognize that name as she is the person that played Iden Verso, the lead protagonist of Star Wars Battlefront 2's campaign.
I know that Mark Bernardin is involved somehow. He's a writer.
Mark Bernardin. Okay, he's a writer. Okay.
He worked on Castle Rock, and most recently he was one of the writers on that He-Man Revelation show that Kevin Smith did on Netflix.
Oh, okay, that inspires confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. David, do you have any...
He's a pretty funny guy.
Okay. Do you have any stance on this at all?
I guess I kind of agree with the internet to an extent in that this seems like, man, this is what we get waiting for Amy Hennig to do something, and it's a Marvel game. Like a lot of people were like, man,
the superhero fatigue is real.
Is everything just Marvel now? Is Marvel the only thing? Like it's been the only successful movies for a while now, and now is it all of our video games are still going to turn to Marvel games?
So I don't want to sound like a hypocrite because I'm really looking forward to Marvel's Midnight Suns, but the main reason why I'm looking forward to that is because it's a part of the Marvel universe that's just never touched on, and that's like the supernatural side of shit.
Yeah, so my point is that it's Amy Hennig, and take a quick look at her pedigree, and what makes you think she wouldn't be working on something huge budget like this?
This is such a waste of her talent, though. I don't want her working on stuff that's already there. I want her creating her own worlds.
Yeah, but what's her wheelhouse? like big AAA story production. Like this is exactly where she fits in. So it makes a shit ton of sense to me. And I get that people are like bummed that she's working on a Marvel game, but I'm willing to bet it's gonna be a pretty fucking good Marvel game.
I would have loved to have seen what she did with Star Wars, because there are so many like Star Wars is very
That's
quickly
the thing.
played
People
out.
were excited about her working on a Star Wars game, so I don't get why you wouldn't be excited about her working on a Marvel game.
For the same reason I mentioned I was excited for Marvel Midnight Suns, because the Amy Hennig Star Wars game was rumored to be part of like the underside criminal part of it, which, save for very recently with like The Mandalorian and the Book of Fett, was a very, very untapped area of Star Wars lore. It was sounding like it was shaping up to be a Star Wars game that just showed us a part we've never seen. With Marvel, though, unless it said, like, Midnight Suns aside, because that is in that same category of untouched stuff, how much do you want to bet this is going to be something that we've already done over and over and over again when it comes to rights? Unless they could surprise us. They could give us something entirely new.
Yeah.
But the superhero fatigue is real, and I'm just burnt out on superhero
I think
movies.
it's funny because I was just as burnt on Star Wars when all that was happening that everybody's burnt on Marvel now. So to me, it's like the exact same amount of excitement. Like, cool, Amy Hennig is working on something new. I bet it's gonna be pretty decent. Like, who knows, right? And it could go a million ways. Or it could be canceled, or it could be just a shit show, or it could be pulled around by whichever studio is like gonna actually.
Oh man, if this is
publish it.
If this is canceled, that would be like the third major project she's been attached to that has gotten pulled out from underneath her. I think the last game she actually did that came out was Uncharted 3. I know she was working on Uncharted 4, but
I think she left midway through production, right?
She left midway through production, and that game apparently underwent heavy revision after she left. So the last game that she like saw to creation, I think, was the third Uncharted. I'm not positive on that. Someone let me know if I'm wrong on that. But it's been years since she has actually put anything out that we have seen. So I don't want the red get put on her. And to be clear, I'm not saying this is going to be a bad game. Because, like you said,
you're just not inherently excited. Like, this announcement doesn't move you.
No.
You're like, oh, it's a new Marvel game. Hooray. You know, what else is new?
Amy Hennig has such a clever mind that I would love to have seen her create her own thing. And
something entirely original would be pretty cool.
I feel like this is a major waste of her talent. But that is not to say that this won't be bad. That's not to say this won't be good. This could be great even. But it's just not moving the needle for me at all.
Yeah, but I hope it's, like you were talking about with the Star Wars thing, something that's just completely unrelated to anything that we've already seen and or played with the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
Like, give us some crazy-ass Galactus story. Like,
yeah, I was about to say it could go the the galactic side of space, which we've seen a little bit with Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's still for the most part kept under the hood, and a little bit with Thor. Actually,
no, but I mean, like, it was like the Silver Surfer side. Like, get us out there.
We'll see how that shakes out. Don't expect to hear any more word on this for minimum another year.
It'll be a minute. All right, ready to move on?
Yeah.
In a story from Video Games Chronicle, Sony has formed the PlayStation PC label for its PC games push. On Wednesday, Steam users noticed that the platform's older PC releases had their publisher switched to PlayStation PC LLC from the previous PlayStation Mobile label. According to a corporation wiki listing, Sony Interactive Entertainment registered the PlayStation PC name in April of this year via its California-based headquarters. Although the name appears to be a formality, it represents a strong signal that Sony intends to increase its gaming output on the PC platform. It just makes sense, right? They've been kind of doing a little bit more of a push to have their games come to PC eventually, so they still had everything on the PlayStation Mobile label, which didn't really fit, and if they're going to make any big push to have more PC releases.
The name itself is inconsequential. What's important is that they seem to be moving on with what they were saying they were going to do, and that is getting harder into the PC space. They were dipping their toe in it. They're trying to see how it go. You had a couple of releases come out for it. It seems like they're whole hog on it now, so they're now like finalizing it and getting it.
Yeah, so you can probably safely expect major Sony games to come out, let's say, about a year to a year and a half post their PlayStation exclusive release. And there you go.
Yeah, I fully expect every Sony exclusive will wind up on Steam now.
If you're a hardcore Sony fan, that means that your gameplay experiences are completely ruined because other people will be able to play those games in about a year. That means you can't have fun anymore. Right? That's how that works.
Yeah, your phone card has been revoked. Just burn your PlayStation. Sony did you dirty.
Set it on fire. Make sure you put it on Twitter showing you that you already spent the money on it and now you're setting it on fire. They'll be like, oh no.
I've always hated those people.
As they wipe their tears with your money.
And admittedly, I hate the same people that do it for like Switch or Microsoft as well too. That get pissed off that a game is going somewhere else. It's like, dude,
doesn't matter.
Fuck it.
It's cool.
Why is it making your game any less?
The game that you enjoyed doesn't lose enjoyment because other people get to play it. Also, the more people get to play the game that you enjoyed, the better the chance is that you have more game coming.
Now that I can actually make a counter argument too, because the more mainstream something becomes, the more watered down it tends to go. So if you liked something that was overly complex and stuff full of mechanics, once it goes mainstream, it tends, not always, but tends to become
someone who
simplified.
likes niche things on occasion. Usually you either like something until it stops existing or until it becomes something you don't like anymore. Those are the options.
I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm just saying I could make it. It's like the being on another console absolutely does not hurt you, but I can make the argument that making it a more generalized game that more people can play can have a detrimental effect on the franchise itself as it starts
sequels
to get
are bad.
watered down.
Everybody that likes sequels, you're also wrong, according to Steven.
No. Resident Evil 2 was a much better sequel than Resident Evil 1, and I'd also make that claim for Dead Space, but I'd also listen to the opposite as well, because I think Dead Space 1 and 2 are both excellent for separate reasons, in much way Alien and Aliens are both excellent, but separate from each other.
Well,
nuance in all things.
Oh man, my favorite arguments are the pointless ones. Anyway, PlayStation, more
Welcome
PC
to the
games
internet.
coming soon to a home computer near you.
Yeah, I expect Sony now to go the route of Microsoft. Everything will show up on PC sooner or later. I just don't expect it to necessarily be day and date.
I don't expect it to be sooner. I fully expect it to be later.
You expect like a year minimum console exclusive?
It depends on the game, but I'm willing to bet it's going to be like at least 6 months.
I was thinking 3. I was thinking you could see stuff turn around as quick as 3, but I doubt it's going to be day and date.
If it's like a small enough release, maybe, but I think like the majors are going to be a year, and then some other stuff will probably be closer to 6 months.
Okay. How long before Gran Turismo 7 is just fully a PC franchise now?
Fuck, I don't know, but
because the guy that directs those is nuts.
Yeah,
and he is big on going like, no, I want the most technologically advanced version of
Kutaragi.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. Sorry. I could see him going, no. If I have access to PC now, I want it to run on the most powerful PC we can. Because he's nuts. I don't mean that in a bad way. He's got like that Kojima auteur kind of thing about him. There's a reason why the Gran Turismo games take so long to come out.
And why they look so good.
Yeah. So, David, let's go ahead and move on to this Sony State of Play. Did you watch this, by the way?
Yeah, I watched it live.
I didn't watch it live. I actually forgot it was running. But
all 22 minutes of it.
This was one of the worst State of Plays I've seen. This was the equivalent to being called into a meeting when it could have been an email kind of shit.
Yeah, kind of funny. I mean, they said it was going to be about 20 minutes, and they fucking delivered. Like, oh, man.
But there's just nothing. I don't want to say there's nothing here, but I still expect more from a State of Play than this shit. This could have been a blog post or two. But let's go through it real quick just for completion's sake. They kicked off with Deathverse, Let It Die. Do you know what Let It Die was, David?
I'm aware of Let It Die.
Okay. All you need to know is that from watching this trailer, it looks like they're using the name Let It Die. Name Let It Die, but it has nothing to do with Let It Die at all, other than being wacky.
Okay.
It's weird. It's like calling Gears of War 4 Halo 3.
Strange.
And that's not necessarily a good comparison, but it's the only one I can think off the top of my head. Deathverse Let It Die looks to be some sort of battle royale game using the Let It Die name, but not have any link to Let It Die. It's yet another one of those things that I look at. It's like, you know what I got from watching this? If Japan made Fortnite.
Okay.
That's what I got from watching this, and I immediately just stopped caring about it. We had a little bit more on We Are OFK. That was that indie game that we've been seeing popping up every now and then about a band. it looks like this band actually exists, and they're using this as not a video game, but kind of like a behind the music about the creation of this band. And they're going to be releasing their singles through this game.
Yeah, it's pretty rad.
Yeah, it's far more...
it's a very cool concept. It's interesting.
It's far more markety than I thought it would be, but I'm interested to see it because I don't think I've seen anything else like that in the gaming space. So
besides Revolution X.
Hey, music is the weapon, man.
Hell yeah, dog.
And you gotta. I wish I could remember what that
the whole tagline.
Bad guy's name was. There was the bad guy's name was fuck. It just always made me laugh. Featured Aerosmith though. So yeah, We Are OFK coming 2022. Bug Snacks DLC, The Island of Big Snacks, coming for free in 2022 from what I understand. By the way, Bug Snacks, a surprisingly dark game, and I love it.
Interesting that the DLC for Bug Snacks is going to be a free release. Are you saying I don't have to pay an additional $25 a year for the PlayStation Plus membership, and then I get it automatically?
If you have... So here's... Okay, so I know where you're going at on this, because I shouldn't say... Because Bug Snacks itself was given as part of PlayStation Plus.
I'm just taking pot shots at Nintendo. Don't worry about it.
I know you're taking pot shots at Nintendo. But there are some people who might hear this and think, well, I'm still paying for PlayStation Plus to have access to Bug Snacks, so it's not really free in that case. But unlike some things which you have to pay for PlayStation Plus to get, if you bought Bug Snacks just on its own without PlayStation Plus, I believe this is still free as well.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that a lot. Good job, guys.
I really like Bug Snacks, by the way. I highly recommend everyone take a look at it. It looks really cutesy and cartoony, but I assure you, as that game goes on, there's some weird-ass shit that happens toward the end of that game, and it actually goes in a direction I didn't expect. We had more Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach shown. I swear to God, Sony has to show this every fucking state of play. It makes me wonder if they have some kind of contract with the people who are making it. I just don't care about this anymore, but it is coming December 16th, and hopefully that'll be the last we fucking hear about this.
Cool.
Death's Door coming to PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 on November 22nd. It is a cute little indie game. I liked it. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I actually really liked Death's Door. I think we both beat it. It's not super long, but it is a very, I don't know, I think cute works. Zelda-like is the closest thing I would describe it to.
Yeah, it definitely falls in that category.
Very heavily inspired by like the Zelda thing.
Kart Rider Drift in 2022. This already breaks one of the rules of being a successful kart racer, by the way, David. To be a successful kart racer, you need to have some kind of franchise attached to it. This has
why
nothing.
the fuck is this not Mod Nation Racers 2?
I have no idea. Because it's not made by Sony, it's made by some third-party team. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. Whatever.
But kart racers tend to...
Kart Rider. Or you're just talking about
kart
the genre.
Racers in general.
My bad. Yeah, they tend to be successful when they have a big thing.
Yeah.
You got Sonic All-Stars Racing Transformed. You've got, Mario Kart. You've got Diddy Kong Racing.
I just don't see the appeal of this. You might be interested in this one.
Garfield Kart. Oh yeah, I already signed up for it.
King of Fighters beta starting soon. Full game coming February 17th.
Hell yeah.
So that's definitely your wheelhouse.
King of Fighters 15, baby.
Owned by SNK or made by SNK, which is now owned by the Saudi royal prince that executed that guy.
That part I don't really love that. They actually went through and did a whole purchase. That's right. I forgot all about that shit.
I gotta mention that every time. It's like whenever we talk about Tencent. Sorry, man. I still buy games that are owned by companies from Tencent. I get it.
Maybe I'll allegedly not pay for it.
First Class Trouble, which is essentially Among Us, but looks janky as hell, coming free PlayStation Plus.
I think this looks like Among Us as a 70s spy thriller.
Yeah, with a science fiction aesthetic on there. I think there's androids or something.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. It's kind of build that way.
The only game that I had an interest in, Star Ocean of a Divine Force, and a coming 2022 and announced
new Star Ocean game.
Yeah, I like me a Star Ocean. They've some franchise that's had a very rough few entries lately. Integrity and Faithlessness kind of sucked. And what was the one before it?
No idea. Last one I played was Till the End of Time.
Till the End of Time also kind of sucked. I didn't like Till the End of Time as well.
That was like a decade ago.
Yeah, I know. It's had a very hard few seasons. The problem is I keep trying to compare them all to Star Ocean 2, which is one of the greatest like JRPGs of all time.
Yeah, and these are like action RPGs now.
Yeah, and nothing really comes close to that. I'm hoping this does it though, because this seemed to actually capture something the last few Star Ocean games didn't have. Plus, good to know Tri-Ace is still alive and kicking. Maybe one day I'll get another Valkyrie profile, because I would love to see. I want a Valkyrie profile like that plays like Valkyrie profile 1 and 2 did, but I want it to have like the most extreme like color palette and graphics possible, because Valkyrie profile shines in its like animations, and I want to see them just take that new tech and dial it up to 11. And then they also ended on The Little Devil Inside, which is still being worked and will come out one day. This is that game that was kickstarted back in 2015.
Damn.
And is still in active development. Let that be a lesson to anyone who kickstarts anything on a video game these days. Star Citizen, I am looking at you. As an aside, David, when's the last time you heard of any major game going to Kickstarter these days? It feels like that bloom has fallen off the rose.
I just like how you made the decision to get us some new hate mail, though. That was pretty fun.
Them Star Citizen fans get really salty when I talk shit about that game.
Yeah, we'll stop making fun of you when your game fucking exists.
Yeah. Speaking of things that don't exist.
Last major video game that I can think of that was kickstarted. I know some games have, like, not kickstarts, but like the
crowdfunding in general. Like
crowdfunding in general is still kind of a thing. But I don't know of any big projects. It's mostly little indie games that get it, right? I still kickstart some board games, so what are you gonna do?
Fair enough. Wanna take this next one there, David?
Yeah, on to the next one. In an announcement from the fellows over at Penny Arcade, PAX South, which is the one down in Texas, to end. From the blog post, while each of our other events have flourished, some of them drawing hundreds of thousands of attendees from around the world, PAX South hasn't expanded and to some extent has remained the same show that it was when we opened it back in 2015. Faced with that reality and compounded by the impact of COVID-19, we have made the difficult decision to bring PAX South to an end for the foreseeable future. Yeah, there's just not going to be a South, so that means that PAX West will remain, PAX East will remain, and you also have PAX Unplugged and PAX Aus.
Yeah, the Australian show. Note that they're not saying this is because of COVID, but I'm sure that helped. But they're saying because PAX South just never grew beyond how it started. There was no growth there.
Okay, so I've got conflicting feelings on this. Because well, I guess I'll just say it sucks. Because I understand that things have to grow and like get more profitable in order for things to be considered a success. But like, if it still made some money, this was the smaller show that you could go to, and you're not completely surrounded by people, like shoulder to shoulder to shoulder to shoulder. Because barring the most recent one, PAX West is a fucking nightmare.
It is.
It is. It's a horrible experience. And I haven't actually had fun at a PAX in, like 4 years. Like, I have more fun going to, like, the board game rooms where they're quiet and I can actually hear myself think than trying to get a word in or trying to sit down. Like, you can't play games unless you're willing to get there first thing in the morning and know exactly what the game is that you want to play and then go stand in that line. And that is what you are doing for that day of PAX.
I will fully admit that my experience of PAX is completely different than yours because I get to go usually on someone else's dime.
You have a special case because, you know, you're a little bit more in touch with things than I am. I go as a regular ass human who's paying his own way there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's frustrating to say the least at this point. So it's kind of a bummer that the smaller show that was more accessible is getting canned because it's the smaller, more accessible show. And I know that they're never going to say that and they're going to blame a million other things, but let's be real, it's not growing exponentially, and that's why they're getting rid of it.
Yeah. My one thing I would say in counter what you're saying is I don't think PAX South made any money ever. I think it was always a loss for ReedPop, which is the organizer.
Yeah, no, if it's just losing money, then I completely understand the decision.
And they were just eating the cost, hoping it would grow into something one day, and it just never materialized.
And I think a lot of people still treat PAX West as PAX Prime.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I still call it PAX Prime. It will always be PAX Prime in my mind.
So no one really pays attention to the other ones.
What I will say is that while they're not saying COVID caused PAX South to be shuttered, what is happening to the other conventions because of COVID is causing this to actually get shut down. Because if you take a look at the photos that came out of PAX West this year,
Dude,
my God, it was desolate.
It was empty. There was nobody on the main stage. The other side of the main building was empty. Upstairs, I think, had 3 things. Like, there was nobody there.
And this is where I would start getting very, very nervous if I relied on convention money coming in. Because I don't think I think PAX as in general might just go away. If your biggest show pulls in that, admittedly, COVID's still kind of kicking around, and sure, it's going to keep people from showing up. But there was, I think just we are in a different market now. I think the idea of these massive conventions are just done. I think they were already on the downside, and I think COVID just kicked them farther down the cliff and made people go.
I don't think that's accurate. I think that COVID put a big damper in it, but going off the fact that these things have had more and more and more attendees every single year, I don't think they're actually on the downside at all. I disagree with that.
From the fan standpoint, yes. I'm talking about specifically developer standpoint, because what killed PAX was so many people pulled out of it.
I get that for this year, but I'm talking like if I go last year, the year before, the year before.
No, I think that what's going to happen is that companies are going to go, why pay for a booth?
Yep. When we could just have a direct. We could just throw a video up.
Why pay for a booth and reach 20,000 people, maybe, if every single person at PAX shows up, when I can put that money into a very slick 20-minute video and reach millions?
Or even potentially cheaper, or maybe not. It kind of depends. Is try and get your snippet into one of the big three's videos. Get it on a direct, or get it on a state of play, or get it on a Xbox. What the fuck do they call their thing? Xbox upcoming. So I don't know.
I guess I should temper that prediction a little bit. There will always be some kind of convention, but the idea of these big, massive shows, up to and including Comic-Con, I think those are just a thing of the past. I think they're going to go back to more the niche crowds. But that's just my opinion.
I think people still like going outside, and you're just more of an introvert, so you don't necessarily feel the pull that people will have for this kind of thing to still happen. Because
fair enough.
Regardless of whether or not some of the companies are quote unquote making money at these events, people are still going to want to do them because people like going to things.
I will say I think my convention days are more or less over, but if, and I doubt they'll ever do it again, if Sony announced a PlayStation experience within a reasonable close distance, I would show up to that, absolutely. Because that was still by far the best convention experience I've had.
Yeah, the PSX was rad. I really
Wus's Corner is asking, obviously biased with this, but how does this affect indie networking and students? Badly. Sorry. What brought the people to the conventions was the big boys, but they got to see a bunch of little shit while they were there. You'll still have things like GDC. GDC I don't think is going to necessarily go away, but that is also not something that's open to the public either. You have to pay a lot to get in. It's meant to be a big developers conference. And you'll still have things like maybe the indie booth, which was how PAX had like the big indie booth. What you'll probably see, the feature that I see coming from that is you'll start seeing a PAX sponsored indie booth at other people's conventions.
I mean, maybe. I just think it's just gonna keep being a thing.
Yeah, no, and I agree. The meet and greet is huge. I have lost so many contacts over the past few years because conventions have just stopped. That my own growth on like the what's the word I'm looking for here? Like the streaming side of things have just kind of slowed up. Everything's done by email now, but I used to be able to go meet in person, shake people's hands, give them business cards. That input has dried up significantly. So it absolutely does hammer smaller fish a lot. It just means that you have to go out and work harder, though. There are more and more websites popping up for developers to connect with each other, for developers to reach out to streamers. There are things like Terminals, Arsenal, Rainmaker, Hoovit, Lurkit, etc. But yeah, it's going to be rough, and it's still going to be rough as these conventions disappear for smaller indie teams. So it is what it is. Sorry, hate to be the bearer of bad news in that case. David, we've got two more stories.
We'll see. More. Yeah, let's get down on it. 3 more stories I want to crank out real quick. First up, this is a quick one. Shoji Meguro is leaving Atlus. Now, if you don't know who that is, he is the composer that has worked with Atlus on Mega 10 games since like the early 90s. He has, if you've played Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne or 4 or Persona 4, 5, or 6, you are intimately familiar with his work because he does that entire soundtrack. Yeah, that's a huge loss, in my opinion.
Big loss, especially for the Persona series, because that game drips with style so much that even changing a little bit of that is going to hammer it. And part of that style is that soundtrack, which is amazing to all of those games. So this is a huge, huge loss to Atlus. I have no idea how they could let someone like this leave. However, Maguro on his Twitter did say that he is still he's leaving on good terms with Atlus. He just wants to work with more indie games, and that he will still be making music for them. I assume in a freelance role of some kind. He didn't get into details on that.
Probably just means he found a way to make more money.
Possibly, but that is a massive, massive blow to Atlus, because that man has made some amazing soundtracks, and I hate to see that happen. But yeah, that's just something I want to bring up real quick, because his work is so synonymous with Persona that you can't really have one without the other.
And another quick news story, a game that's not very popular did a super unpopular thing and then walked it back. And that is Marvel's Avengers has removed the character boosters. And a quote from their Twitter account, we've decided that by the end of today, this was the other day, we will remove Heroes, Catalyst, and Fragment extractors for purchase. We apologize for not responding sooner to your concerns about the addition of paid consumables in the marketplace. We introduced them as an option for an evolving player base and did not see them as pay to win since they don't offer power directly.
Bullshit.
Yeah, that's exactly what these fucking things are. They're XP and currency boosts. They exist so that your character can get more powerful quicker than other people's characters. And
Go ahead.
The fact that they added these like so far after the fact is the most egregious part to me, because if they weren't in the initial release, then that's the version you sent to the reviewers, which is the version that people are going to be talking about, which is the versions that spread around. And then you add this kind of bullshit like marketing tactic,
admittedly, it's
dollar sync thing later.
It is less distasteful being a year on than some companies do it when they do it like 2 weeks after it's come out and then slip it in.
This is better than Shadow of War. I will admit that, but only just.
However,
because it's still a shitty tactic.
Something I do want to point out, and I'd be remiss if I didn't there, David, is that when this game first launched, they did promise the only microtransactions in this game will be cosmetic. And they fucking broke that with this. Fucking dead. That's one of the reasons why people got so heated over this. I mean, it's egregious to begin with, but then they added this in after promising and making a big deal about it. I remember them making a big deal to point out, we have no microtransactions that aren't cosmetic in our games, because everyone was saying that for a hot second there. And then they go back on their word to this, and they were fucking called out on it. And less than, I think 3 weeks after it happened, they immediately went, sorry, we're backing off of that. I think that this just shows a desperation on Marvel's, on Square Enix, to get people to pay.
Crystal Dynamics?
Which is owned by Square Enix, or Square Enix published it. So they're the people making the money off of it.
Yes. They did just put this on Game Pass.
And this is, I think that's also another one of the reasons why you're having stuff like this trying to get pushed into there, because Game Pass only makes Square Enix a set number of money.
Yes.
So they are desperate to make money off of this, and I don't think they can just drop it because they've spent so much time and effort into it. But I to show you how bad this is, David, the only time we ever fucking talk about this game is when it's something fucked up.
Yeah, this game came out. We talked about it prior to the release and thought, man, it's kind of weird how they made the characters look almost like the MCU characters, but then they made them not. So it's like this weird uncanny valley, and they don't have their own personalities, but then they just don't have any personality. And I know that there's some people that like this game, but Not a lot if you look at the numbers,
This
and
falls
it's
into that
kind of a
same
bummer because
category.
this could have been rad, and I want Crystal Dynamics to do well.
This seems to
I'm
be a
just
little bit of the theme tonight, David. There's nothing more that we can say about Marvel Avengers that we haven't already, and we have to talk about it once every two months because they keep fucking up. But I think we've both stated our opinion on this ad nauseum. I don't think there's really more we can add to this conversation other than they tried to pull a fast one and they were caught doing it.
yeah. If you want to make your game more popular, maybe flesh it out and give people more to do.
Exactly. We have one more news story I want to go over here real quick. This is the CNBC, and thank you very much, Wilson's Corner, for providing the link to the story in the Discord. You can also join the Discord link down below if you too want to add contributions to the show. Headline: Fortnite to shut down in China as Beijing intensifies video game crackdown. The widely popular Battle Royale game, developed by Epic Games, will shut down its local Chinese version on November 15th, according to an update on its website. Users were prevented from registering new accounts starting November 1st. Epic didn't provide a specific reason for why it was shutting down Fortnite in China. The Chinese version of the game was launched in 2018 through a partnership with publisher Tencent, who owns 40% of Epic, so that's how that deal was made. The game technically never had a full launch in China. Instead, it was playable in a test mode, excluding some features from its main version, like in-app purchases. We've reported the story before in the past about how China is cracking down hard on its gaming sector. Tencent and NetEase have both taken massive poundings to their holdings because of it. The premier of China, I think, called video games a spiritual opium, and they're trying to limit their players to 18, if you're 18 or younger, to being only 3 hours a week, 1 hour on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Additionally, China has a cultural hegemony on what can and can't be shown in there, so that makes things infinitely more complex with a game like Fortnite, who is all about having every single character ever in it. Up to and including Winnie the Pooh. Goddamn, please, Tim Epic, if you're watching this, have some Disney DLC we get to play as Winnie the Pooh. Please. I'll even play Fortnite for a little bit. If I can see that tubby little bear running around throwing honey at people and saying death to communism or something.
Fucking hell, dude. Oh, man.
Oh, please do that, Tim Epic. I know you watch the stream, Tim Epic.
I know he does. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Luckily, I'm hoping that some of these Chinese players are still able to get their hands on the Soldier Boy console, because, you could just play emulated games on that.
Companies out there, please, I implore you, stop doing business with China, because they will bite you in the ass. I am glad that they're just shutting down this rather than trying to create something to fit in there. I'm glad that Epic's just like, nah, why bother in leaving this as it is. Please, more companies follow suit. That is such an evil entity that you need to just disassociate from it.
It's just funny because literally no one is going to listen to you.
Someone's got to speak out somewhere, even if no one listens.
I know.
David,
but there's a reason why every Hollywood blockbuster has a scene that's set in China.
Yeah, that shit really started with Transformers. From what that's like the first one.
You can blame most things on Michael Bay.
Yeah, I assure you.
I do on the regular.
Where was he at back in Germany in '39?
Oh.
I know where he was.
Too dark, too much. Let's talk about something else. We're out of here.
David, we got 2 delays coming up. We're a couple of delays, I should say. We have the aforementioned Diablo IV and Overwatch 2 now scheduled to be 2023 or later. Keep in mind that Blizzard Activision never really gave dates for those games. Yeah, right. Also, the sequel to The Forest, Sons of the Forest, has been delayed until mid-2022.
Oh, no. Did you ever play The Forest?
No.
It's a
creepy,
survival game. Punch trees, that kind of survival game. But it's got this whole other thing where there's like these crazy fucking cannibals that'll try and eat you, but they can actually catch you and knock you out, and you wake up in a cave and you're tied up and you have to like escape the cave before
apparently
it's
got some legit horror chops to it. So it's enough to make me want to take a look at it one day.
Yeah, it's definitely like a survival game. You can play it multiplayer, but it's got a little spook, got a little charm. I actually put a little bit of time in The Forest and then fell off because that game's too big, and I have no attention span.
David, Sons of the Forest, if I had an interest in playing it, doesn't come out until 2022. In the middle of it, it sounds like. That's at least a week away. What can I do to
At
keep
least.
myself occupied between now and then?
Well, my friend, we do have some new releases coming out this week. First up on the list, Conway Disappearance at Dahlia View hits the PlayStations, the Xboxes, Switch, and PC. This is a 3D detective adventure game where an 8-year-old has gone missing and talking is hard. Retired detective Robert Conway launches his own investigation into her disappearance. Laid the
I was about to
investigation.
say, we call them special detectives, David.
Thank you. Uncover dark secrets in a story-driven observational thriller from the creators of The Occupation and Ether One or Ether One. Ether One?
I think it's Ether One.
I think it's Ether One as well, but I hadn't heard of that. I have heard of The Occupation though.
The Occupation was all right. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad either. I'm kind of curious to see what this pans out as.
This game, from looking at it, just purely aesthetically and watching some trailers and stuff, looks like a B tier game. But sometimes those are the perfect games, so take a look. Demon Turf hits the PlayStations, Xboxes, Switch, PC, and Mac. Man, look at that, a Mac game. A 3D platformer with attitude. Join Beebs in her ambitious goal of taking over the Demon Turfs and becoming the Demon Queen herself. It's got unique mechanics, and you can place your own checkpoints, but the thing that struck me is that it's a 3D platformer with like 2D character sprites. So looking at the animation is actually pretty neat looking. Like your character looks like they're 2D, but on a full 3D plane.
It almost has a quasi Octopath engine style to it.
Oh, see, I was gonna say Parappa the Rapper.
Yeah, that's even better. Like, I don't mean like in the Pixar style, but just in that 2D, 3D shit.
Yeah, it looks like they're almost cut out like pieces of paper 2D characters.
Paper Mario, things like that.
Paper Mario would also work. Tunch, or maybe Tunche, comes out this week as well. PlayStation, Xbox, PC, and Switch. This is a hack and slash action roguelike, a hand-drawn action game with roguelike elements. Team up with your friends or play solo. 5 different characters, and you're restoring peace in the Amazon rainforest. So it's a 2D side-scroller, but the art style, I think, is very unique. If you haven't taken a look at it, Tunche, Tunche, sets in the Amazon rainforest, and I don't know. The art is neat to me, so I'm kind of interested in it. Time Loader is a PC release this week. It is a 1990s based exploration platformer. It's a 3D side-scroller, story-driven puzzle platform with tiny robots, alternate realities, nostalgic music, and primitive tech from the 90s. So you're basically like this person, or I think you're a little kid, and you build these little robots, looking over things, and you kind of drive them around the house and solve puzzles and do kind of neat things, but the robots talk to you. I don't know. Looks kind of cute. Just Dance 2022, it's everything. It's a Just Dance game. Ubisoft's going to print money. I don't need to sell Just Dance to literally anybody. It's got 40 new hot tracks from chart-topping hits to greatest classics.
The older I get, the less of these titles I know.
Yeah,
because I look
at
at the song list to this, and I was like, I haven't even heard of these people, let alone the songs they've done.
Yeah, I've probably heard about 4 songs on Just Dance 2022. But hey, people flipping love these games, and if you do, you should get this one because I bet it's super fun.
Yeah, that, by the way, is not a dig on Just Dance as a franchise. That's a dig on myself for just being fucking out of touch.
I played one of the old Just Dance games, and I was like, this is fun, but I can't do this because if people see me, I will feel foolish. Because I kind of tend to move without rhythm so as not to attract the worm.
So yeah, you don't want to attract that fucking worm.
Call of Duty Vanguard. It's the PlayStations, Xboxes, and PC this week. A lot of people are looking forward to this, I'm sure. Keep in mind that on the PC release, this is only available on Battle.net. So that's where you have to play it if you want to. We're back to World War II. It's a new Call of Duty game. Once again, I don't actually have to sell this to anybody because if you want it, you probably already bought it and it's preloaded on whatever system you're trying to play it on. Right? It's Call of Duty. I'm still looking forward to Battlefield myself. Finally, I have Mobile Suit Gundam Battle Operation Code Fairy. It's a PlayStation game. This game was hard for me to pin down, and here's what I think is happening. It's kind of a story RPG, but it's also a mech action game. And it's less like the Muso versions of the Gundam games and more like a slow, floaty, kind of simpler version of like an Armored Combat where you're like third person, you're driving a robot, you've got like a slash and guns, but it also has like a 4 to 6 player team battle mode in it, where you're fighting as either Earth Federation or Xeon, and it's got ground combat and vehicles and all kinds of mechs and stuff, but there's story, and I think there's 2 video games here. One's the story one, the other one's the online competitive one, and it's also a sequel to a free-to-play game that released in 2012.
David, what's it going to take for me to get Ring of Red 2? That's all I want.
You're not gonna, man. You get Mobile Suit Gundam Battle Operation -Code Fairy.
David, that does it for new releases. That means that also does it for the show as well. This has been GamePoints episode 285, and thank you all for showing up. We do appreciate it. We do stream this show live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time over at twitch.tv/GamePoints. Please feel free to drop on by and be part of the conversation like so many of you do. But if you can't watch us live, you can also watch us later over at youtube.com/GamePointsPC or our Discord server link provided down below. You can follow us on Twitter at CapitalistPig for myself, or David there at _Satori. And of course, we will be back next Tuesday with more gaming news. But until then, stay safe, take care, and we're out of here.